Thomas speaking. Today we will have session to GCP, good clinical practices, within this GMP Detox Sessions. So maybe I choose the wrong naming for that, but today we will go into GCP and computer system validation and data integrity. And this could be used for internal implementation, but also for auditing. And I have opened my screen and I'm sharing my screen. And I think there's something very interesting here written by the European Medicines Agency last year, 2023. It's called the Guideline on Computerized Systems and Electronic Data in Clinical Trials. And I think it's a wonderful document. And this is what I want to show you today very quickly. It was coming into effect on the 9th of September 2023. I still see some companies in GCP, but also auditors who still do not really know this document. But I think it's really worth to read it. It has 52 pages. I do not know someone from this Good Clinical Practice Inspectors Working Group. I know some people from inspector working groups in GMP, but whoever has written it, of this European inspectors, thank you, vielen Dank, bedankt, grazie, gracias, fala lepo, whatever language they are talking to. Fantastic, a great document. And what they have done is they put into this document computer system validation and data integrity. Before that, in the GCP guidelines, Ultralex volume, it was not really nicely done. They refer to PICS PI 011, which is basically written for GMP. And so for many years, that was an open issue, but the EMA has closed that, and the inspector working group, GCP, of that has done a wonderful job. So we will go quickly through that. You will find that if you enter into Google or Bing or whatever, this number here, and then you have this guideline. Yes, it's in operation, right? Since last year. Now more than 1 year already. Table of content, and then it starts with data integrity. I'm not the biggest fan of Alcoa++ principles, but here it's okay. Then they have computerized systems. They have a huge focus on electronic data. What companies should not do is, if they have approaches for computer system validation or data management, like in GMP, for example, and they outroll this GMP system one-to-one to GCP. GCP does have different processes which must be considered if you set up a validation system or if you perform an audit, an internal audit even. So don't roll out your expectations from GMP directly to GCP. They are similar, but there are different processes behind of that. So this is very important: electronic data, data capture, transcriptions, the transfer. This guideline is also taking into consideration different solutions. So ECRF on paper, or is it electronic? Is there a transcription needed, double data entry, and all that sort of stuff, and edit checks, direct captures, and so on. Here also with our good old friend Audit Trail, in a different meaning, like in GMP, the sign-off of data, copying data. Then they work with different annexes, like what kind of agreements you should have. I'm searching also, they have something also for cloud computing, and a very short link to artificial intelligence. Then they describe computerized system validation. Cool stuff regarding test executions, if you do a user acceptance test of your ECRF, for example, and how to set up things like this. Periodic review, okay, from GMP would call it periodic evaluation, so that you check the system, the validation status of the system. Then very useful in Annex 3 user management, Annex 4 security, Annex 5 additional considerations to specific systems, and other clinical systems. And this is quite very well written. You see also here, I highlighted some things. It's based on the European regulation 536, the clinical trial regulation, definitions of audit trails, of clinical outcome assessments. Here also quite very nice, not only to call everything an audit trail, it's also an event log. And I'm just going through that document. It has 52 documents focusing on electronic case report forms, but also on electronic patient reported outcomes, for example. This would ultimately contribute to a robust decision-making process based on such clinical data. So underlining the importance of the data. We will later talk about trial integrity and study integrity and data quality or study quality, which is even more important. What I would also like to tell you that do not only focus in a kind of a silo approach just on the validation of a single system or something like this. In GCP and in studies, you will have a wider view on that. So don't follow too much a silo approach, and there's more behind of that if we talk about the study quality. So requirements and the expectations are defined in here. You must read this document by your own with the references to the regulations and ICH guideline E6. R2, we will later have a view on the current development of R3 very quickly. Very nice update, also consistent with the things that are mentioned here. Nice diagrams and figures also in it, the Alcoa++ principles. Then a good section about criticality and risk, and not criticality of functions and I press the button here and blah, blah, blah. It's really the criticality based for the study and the decision-making process. All data collected or generated in the context of a clinical trial should fulfill Alcoa++ principles, for sure. Yeah, if this is in question, we have a problem. For systems deployed by the investigator, the sponsor should determine during site selection whether such systems are fit for purpose. During the site selection already, not, I have seen customers, they signed contracts and later in the audit we found out which systems they want to use and we were not happy about these systems. So do it as soon as possible. Okay, data fields should not be pre-populated or automatically filled in. So I just have taken this as an example. You see a very good guidance document telling you not everything how you should do that, but giving you some great details. Now, this is very interesting. A detailed diagram and description of the transmission of electronic data, the data flow or data flow diagram, should be available in the protocol or the protocol-related documents, the study protocol. Often I'm searching for that and I don't find anything. Even in the protocol, it's not written down which equipment and systems will be used. So here's a detailed diagram and description of the transmission of electronic data. That's important later if we talk about your monitoring plan. We will have a view also into that. So then they have here something about electronic signatures. I would always try to stay with a closed system. However, they will define an open system, but then they say you should use a qualified electronic signature. Very hard to implement that. I don't know if we need to have open systems in that context. I would base it on a good definition that it is a closed, a controlled system. Variation should ensure accuracy, reliability, and consistent independent performance from the design until the decommissioning of the system or transition to a new system. So they do not stop thinking, oh, study is ended and now everything is fine, even decommissioning. The authors here, I must say, my impression is they have very good understanding of of the GCP processes and the computerized systems. So pretty cool. I really like this document. You find something about training, access control, electronic data, transcription, very important, source data collected on paper, or transcript either manually or by a validated entry tool into the electronic data collection, so scanning, text-based things also in it, or even in other ways, which are provided verbally or however it's done. So in case of manual transcription, risk-based methods should be implemented to ensure the quality of the transcript data, double data entry. Very cool. Always think about that. Moment costs might be very high, or you go to a full electronic system. That would be my preference, maybe in 98% of all cases. The data transfer. Very often I read even the contracts and the transfer, because finally the data owner is the sponsor, and they should have the data, and they must also take care of the retention periods if they get a marketing authorization or whatever. I would not keep that with the CRO. Maybe you could do that, or at least it should be paid, or it should be managed, or it should be defined how it is done. So quite very well written, the data capture, the edit checks, audit trails. I disagree slightly with some of the things, but audit should capture any changes in data entry per field and not per page. Very important. Not every system can do that. Have an eye on that. Risk-based specific audit trail reviews, I would combine that in monitoring plans. So I would not agree that you need to have one specific new process. We will talk about monitoring plans in 2-3 minutes. Data review should focus on critical data. So we must define what is the critical data before we start a study. Manual review, as well as review by the use of technology to facilitate the review of large data set, should be considered. I'm not a big fan of manual reviews. I don't believe that someone with with a brain like in the movie Beautiful Mind looks on 3,600 data points and is seeing there's an abnormal deviation from the standard approach, or from the standard characteristics of the data. The PICS document, by the way, is calling that an exception report. And I would like also to have that for the monitoring activities, for example. Then we have here data safety monitoring board should do the review. That's basically the one and only link to monitoring. I would strengthen that a little bit. Then certified copies, control of data, cloud solutions. If a cloud solution is used, the responsible party should ensure that the server provider providing the cloud is qualified. So yes, we should do a qualification, an audit of that. Very often, if I do GCP audits, I just say, yeah, they just said we put it on Amazon cloud or Microsoft Azure or whatever, and they say, hey, but how did you qualify that? What are your, at least, is there a kind of a quality agreement? Do you have the white papers of the suppliers in place? How did you do the qualification? Sometimes nothing is done. That's not enough. Nothing is not really a lot of things. So backup, the use of replicated servers is strongly recommended. Yes, I would also see that. Like this, trial continuation and prevent loss of data critical to patient safety and trial results should be in place. However, in which way you will do that. Validation of data migration. Sometimes I even see projects that in the middle of a study, the CRO might be changed, or the system will be updated or changed or something like this to a newer version or to a totally new system approach, or however. Data migration is very important, sometimes not really easy, sometimes a little bit tricky. It should be validated. Then archiving, very often misunderstood with the backup activity. archiving is something else. And here also very interesting, an inventory of all essential data and documents and corresponding retention period should be maintained. I do not see that very often, that they have different kind of document or record types in the list, saying this must be stored for 3 years and this for 15 years. And I do not see that very often. It's quite a very good reminder. You should do that. Database decommissioning, how you do that. There are professional service providers that they will destroy your hardware on a professional way. You basically, it's put in a hot metal bath and totally being totally destroyed. Nobody can read anything anymore. Like in the movie Terminator 2, when at the end he was going into this hot steel bath. It's very similar with hardware in GCP or anything like this. The annexes are quite very good. Annex general principle is a responsive party wants to use the vendor's validation documentation. The responsible part should ensure that it covers the responsible party's intended use as well as its defined needs and requirements. Basically, no other way as doing an audit of the system provider of whatever your ETMF, ECRF system or something like this. In audit, sometimes I do not see that this is done properly. Then we have the user requirements. Try to use digital solutions for that. Don't write a user requirement specification like here in a Word document ending up in a 120 pages document. There are cooler solutions on the market. Atlassian Confluence, Atlassian Jira, whatever. So then validation test plans, very interesting. Test case should be pre-approved. I just take some of the highest, the version of the software being tested. Sometimes I see test protocols for the UAT of the ECRF or something like this. And a simple question, if I ask, okay, I have seen you have done a change of the application 2 months ago. You did the UAT 3 months ago. How does that change impact, or even vice versa? It doesn't matter. Or I say on the test cases, on the test script or test protocol, I cannot see on the front page which version you have tested or which kind of configuration you have tested. I must say then the test protocol, the test results are totally useless if I don't know which software version, release, patch, hotfix was tested. Test case should require the tester to document the actual results as seen in the test tip, the evidence, if relevant, and if applicable, the conclusion of the test steps, pass and fail. Very important, clearly indicate, not okay or yes, no, blah, blah, blah. Do it, pass, fail. That's like GAMP, ISB GAMP 5-second edition is defining it. Evidence by screenshots. I do not see a better way as in doing screenshots. Cool tool for that is hard copy, for example. But others also does work. Then it depends more on the methodology, how you do it, not saying I do Alt, E, print, whatever on the keyboard and very complicated copying it into Word documents, then the process is not good. But we need to have document evidence of testing. Sometimes I have seen test protocols for UATs and so on, 50, 60 pages and not one single screenshot. How can I prove that it really worked? Yeah. I would also do that from the CRO side to protect myself, to say, look here, it worked at the point that we were testing and validating it with software version 1.2.2.3 build to hotfix 3. This is what we have tested. That was our configuration and that was unchanged. Release for production, the periodic review. Very cool here. You see the bullet points saying what you should check, configurations and customization. Like I said, that deviations that occurred where the root cause given by the system could happen, that it was not well validated. That happens, that's normal. As part of the change control process is defined user management, user reviews, even very cool segregation of duties, for sure. I had once a GCP audit, the general manager had administration rights on the database. Sorry, that's not GCP-like. Okay. Also, individual accounts. All systems users should have individual accounts. Sharing of accounts, group accounts is considered unacceptable and a violation of the data integrity and of the ICH E6 principles. Yes. If somebody needs that in writing, here you will find it. Basically, it should be logical and so on. You'll find more on security, interfaces, firewalls, penetration testing in the internet, activity monitoring, remote authorization, if you need that, password managers, password policies, inactivity logs, remote connections, for example, for system maintenance by the external provider, and so on. So I have not found anything that they have forgotten here to define. A great document. I must say that really a great document, training, user support. Things also with bring your own device. Yeah, maybe. How far we must go with that? It's not easy. Interactive response technology systems, very interesting. User acceptance testing, dosage calculations, randomization, blinding, unblinding, emergency unblinding, web-based randomization, electronic informed consent. Very important. Yes, very important. And how you do that, how you manage the data, the written informed consent, sponsor notifications, trial participation, confidentiality, very important. So you see it's really taking into account every GCP aspect. I must say that's a great document covering all of that things. If you set up your GCP validation approach, this is your golden standard. That's really cool. 52 pages. I managed it now in 23 minutes and we did it very fast. Take your time, read the document, maybe extract things out of there, define that as your requirements. Even this guideline is saying there are also expectations and your own interpretation how you do that. Whatever we do in audits or in anything, do not forget not only to stay with a silo approach and say, now we stress the people with data integrity assessments or something like this. I find it very useful. Guidance for industry from the US FDA. So take the best from Europe and the best from US. Oversight of clinical investigations, a risk-based approach to monitoring. And if you build a bridge, it's from 2013. Sometimes I also have problems with this, that I do not see that in GCP audits in an appropriate way. Risks to data and data quality and to process critical to human subject protection and trial integrity. And you should try to combine data integrity also with trial and study integrity and to set up this kind of data or system checks into your monitoring plan. And I really like this document provided by the US. I just show you something else that I have highlighted. They make a difference between on-site monitoring and centralized monitoring, including the sponsor's use of electronic systems. And this is important. Centralized monitoring will only work if you have a validated electronic system according to the European guideline, and that you think about that, how you make an access to the system for external people monitoring the data, how you make that possible, at which time points you want to do that monitoring. If you want to have an audit trail review in an automatic way, like we have defined it in the guideline, then centralized monitoring is pretty cool. That's what they call risk-based, and a mixture between that. I really like this guidance for industry. So rather, it may be sufficient to compare the most critical data points for a sample of subjects. So it's important to know the most critical data points, the data integrity risk of the trial, yeah, and to have a focus in validation to that specific trial. In the GAMP Good Practice Guide for GCP, they also have a layered approach, yeah, that you say, I validate the ECRF platform or the eTMF system platform, but each study is built separately on that basis and needs a special validation on top of that, or qualification or verification, however you would call it. So include a mix of centralized and on-site monitoring practices. Sponsors should prospectively identify critical data and processes, then perform a risk assessment to identify and understand the risk that could affect the collection of critical data or the performance of critical processes, and then develop a monitoring plan that focuses on the important and likely risk to critical data and processes. Wow. Do not see that very often, especially prospectively. So the study protocol and the monitoring plan, and doing that before, and to identify and understand the risk and the collection of critical data. We will directly go into ICH E6 if we talk about data flows. That's really cool. And then you see, if you have the validation combined with the practical on-hands things that should be done in a study, that makes really sense. Throughout modifying the protocol design, the risk assessment, how you should do that. So this is quite very nice. At the end, it ends up with a monitoring plan. If I verify the validation of a system used in GCP, I also must have a view on the monitoring plan. And it could be that I could say, for this study, the validation in combination with the monitoring plan is okay, is acceptable. But in another study, it could happen that you say, because the monitoring plan does not fit to the validation of the system, or with the functionality, or the configuration, or the ECRF setup, or the configuration of that, then I must say it failed. Very simple. That happens this happens also. For example, data management personnel may provide monitors with routine reports of outstanding CRFs or of common data queries at or across sites that may enable effective targeting of monitoring activities. Yes, but then the system must be able to provide it, and you must define who will do it, how it will be done, and when it will be done. And okay, so this is quite very good to ensure study integrity. Simple like that. Yeah. So we do not only talk about data integrity, it's also and study integrity, or the quality of your data, yeah, where your quality decision is based on. Okay, so this is cool. I don't know how good or how well known this document is. Great guidance for industry, oversight of clinical investigations, a risk-based approach to monitoring from 2013, quite very good. Actually, at this time point, now it's November 2024, when I'm recording that, the ICH E6 R3 guideline on good clinical practices is in step 2 or 3, no, step 2B, for example. And here also very cool. The same is provided by the US FDA under the umbrella of the ICH. You will find there a lot of cool and new stuff. I just highlighted some of that it fits together with the thinking of the monitoring plan and the validation or data integrity, tile integrity, and so on. Let me go here. Yeah, it's in line 1603. So, where necessary, additional details, including a data flow diagram, should be contained in a protocol-related document. I see where necessary, basically nearly always. The more complex the study becomes, a data flow diagram must be in there. So that will be in there. I have read that very often. That also fits together with the monitoring plan guidance for industry, and in the guideline of computerized systems, it's very specific for the validation. But you know, if you would need to verify the compliance of the validation of the GCP system, you must also have this data flow diagram in your hands. Otherwise, you cannot verify it properly. So this is quite very well written. I have not read the entire document until now. It's still so, but here also, the sponsor should ensure that it is specified in the protocol, in the study protocol, or rather documented agreements. So it could be also an attachment to the protocol or the monitoring plan that the investigator provide direct access to source records for trial-related monitoring, audits, IRB, IAC review, and regulatory inspections. Okay, record access. Again, going back to the guideline for computerized systems and keeping that in mind. I don't know if I have highlighted something else too. I don't think so. There are a lot of cool stuff in it. Okay, so what you find also on the ICH website is the work plan. I'm not sure the key deliverable in the moment. By the way, ICH guidelines, they have 5 steps. 4 basically is the final 5 is then implementation at the EMA, Japan and US FDA. So in the moment we are somewhere, where is it? Steps 3 and 4 sign of November. So they still have 15 days for that. Okay, we will see. Or sometimes it comes later. I think it will lay under our Christmas tree. So then it's okay. So, and step 4, adoption June 2025. Okay, so next year will be an interesting year. Okay, conclusion, what I have shown to you, a great document. EMA, thanks so much, guideline on computerized systems and electronic data in clinical trials. GCP guys, auditors, companies, really worth to read that. Update your CSV approach. Don't listen to CSA nonsense. Here you find very good information. The guidance for industry, oversight of clinical investigation, risk-based approach to monitoring very important. And ICH E6, release 3. Yes, we are looking forward to that. And there you will find also data flows, data flow diagrams, identification of critical data must be part of the protocol and so on. That's very important. So that was today a GMP Detox session focusing on GCP. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel. Since yesterday, we have 200 subscribers. Hooray. So thanks so much. Have a great day, a great week. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.